what is forcing them to have structure or rules, they're oftentimes rebelling against that. And so you can help them find another way to have structure. Like this client, I said, let's go to part-time. That'll give you more time to build your business. That'll give you more time to do the stuff that your husband wants you to do at home. That'll give you a breather. So that was one of the solutions that we decided with her, was having part-time work, and she could handle it.
But she doesn't have a job?
She has a job, but the job was too much for her. So in therapy, we decided that part-time would be sufficient for her. But why? Because she's married, because her husband pays part of the bills. You can't tell every client to go part-time. That's negligent. People need to pay their bills. You have to encourage them, okay, maybe you have to stay at this job. Where else can you create some chaos? Where else can you get a breather? That's where maybe having social connections, maybe having hobbies, maybe, taking some time out for exercise, whatever it is that your therapeutic intervention is that you're going to do with your client. But that would be negligent of you, because your client hates their job, for you to say, well, then you quit. You can help a client make a plan to get a better job, but it's not going to be overnight. So we can't be irresponsible as therapists to tell a client, oh yeah, whatever you want to do is okay. That's not empathy. That's fucking up someone's life. Sometimes, remember, mother, father, sometimes we're the father and we have to impose the rules. Well, this may not be the best time for you to leave your job, but why don't we work together to find you something new? Within the next 6 to 8 months, maybe you'll land a new job. So you explain to the client that they're limited. So this client was able to leave, to have a part-time job because she was able to do it. Because her spouse supported her, because her finances supported her. But if not, and there are therapists that will tell clients, oh yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, do that. Yeah, leave your spouse. Yeah, leave your job. Oh yeah.
They do.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because they take the empathy and the validation, and my client needs loving and nurturing, to a whole extreme. You love your client, but last I checked, there's something called tough love. And you might have to educate your client, well, really, how are you going to pay your bills? Like I did with this woman yesterday. He doesn't have to give you more money. You have an established thing in the court system. So I saw it. Like, she had this thought. She all of a sudden was like, oh shit, I am stuck with this measly amount of money that this guy's giving me, and I've got 5 kids. I gotta make this shit work.
Yeah.
Maybe all of a sudden, he ain't so bad. I don't know. I am a pro-marriage person, so I try to save marriages. I have one rule in marriage counseling. As long as there is no abuse, it's the first question I ask couples. First thing I ask, is there abuse in the marriage? I can't treat people where there's abuse in the marriage. It's something that goes against my value system, and I will refer out. But if I can establish that there isn't abuse, I am pro-marriage. And I think that relationships can be salvaged. And I also have an understanding that relationships are renegotiated, just like any business contract, every so often. The relationship you start off at 25 is not the same relationship you're in with the person when you're 55. If it is, it's a problem. People change, people grow, their needs are different, we evolve, hopefully. But I saw her kind of go, oh, light bulb. Because it's my responsibility to not necessarily help her create all this chaos and blow up her life. And what she's rebelling against, I bet you, has nothing to do with the marriage. My hunch, and we haven't gotten there yet, that it has to do from 0 to 7. And if I have enough time with them, and I see her individually too, I see them as a couple and I see her separate, we get to work on those things. Her issue stems from not from this marriage, whether the marriage works or not. It has to do with rules and structure and confinement that she probably had as a child that she's trying to rebel against. And the other lady that I had yesterday, the one that uses her body to self-harm and to create chaos so that she doesn't have to go to work and so forth, she said that in childhood, she had so many rules. Everything was rules. And she's like, I hate rules. Of course you hate rules. Because as a child, you had so much structure that you create chaos to try to give yourself a breather. Oh, I've created a mess in my life. Now I can breathe. Now I haven't turned into my mother. Right? I was waiting for you to come because this is so you. Yeah. Your desire for so much freedom. But really what you want is an organized fucking life. We crave stability. We really deep down crave stability. There was years ago a hurricane and so many crashes happened because the lights were out. So they put a stop sign. And the moment that they put the stop sign, some intersection, not too far from here I guess, it reduced the accidents. Because people like rules. Because the moment you were born, you were given a body. And having a body means you are limited. The body has rules. Rules for self-care. We brush our hair, we brush our teeth, we take showers, right? In Ayurveda, there is a whole book dedicated to daily routines just to take care of the body. What time to wake up, what time to go to sleep, what time to eat, what time to have sex, what season to do this, what season to do that. Because the body has rules. So the minute you have a body, the minute you become a human being, there are rules to follow. There are rules to follow. So we actually crave stability, even though we all think, everyone a moment ago raised their hands, they want to do whatever the fuck we want. Bullshit. Because when you want to do whatever the fuck you want, you get into trouble. You create chaos in your life. It's the worst. People say, when I used to work from home a lot, like full time for many, many years when my kids were little, oh, what a great thing that you get to be home with your kids and work from home. Nah, not always. Not always. You have to get up. You have to force yourself to get up. You have to force yourself to eat breakfast. You've got to force yourself to see your clients. You have to keep your own schedule. You have to make sure that you don't work too much. You have to make sure that you're doing the housework. It is so much easier to know that I have to work 40 hours a week, that I can check my little clock in, and at 40 I've done, check, rule, done. That I know I'm going to get my paycheck, that I have the stability of that. And I happen to be busy. When I got cancer and stuff like that, I had to, postpone clients, and I had a big dip in my finances because I was dealing with my house, and I had this. So now I'm rebuilding back my practice. But when you work for yourself, you don't have a steady paycheck. You don't know what's coming in. You don't know if you're going to make ends meet. So do we like stability? Do we like structure and rules? We do. Human beings crave it. That's why when the stop sign was put there, all of a sudden people stopped having accidents. Oh, the rule is to stop when you see a stop sign. Not everyone knows knows when a flashing red light that you're supposed to slow down, stop, and then let the other person. So that was causing chaos. So when people are oftentimes blowing up their life, creating chaos, self-destructive tendencies, and they come to you, it is because what they're really asking you is to give them structure and rules. But you have to find out what type of structure and rules they're rebelling against. So even though we all like structure and rules and stability, inherently, even everybody raised their hand and said, I want to do whatever the fuck you want, you really do want to know that you want to know that the sun's going to come up every day. You want to know these cycles. You want to know these things are going to happen. It helps you form your life. But you have to find out what type of structure your client is rebelling against. And oftentimes, that's the childhood questions that you go to and you find out. Because we were all limited somehow. Many years ago, I worked at Fort Lauderdale Mental Hospital, and I worked in the adolescent ward. And you guys in Intro to Psych covered different parenting styles. So I'm giving a group meeting, and the kids are complaining that their parents didn't give them structure. Parents let me do whatever I want. Any of you have that kind of parenting? Permissive parenting? Where your parents let you do whatever you want?
It's both.
Your parents acted like your friend. They let you drink, they let you smoke, they let you do whatever, they didn't. Well, these kids were in there for alcohol and drugs. The adolescent ward was mainly for those type of behaviors. And a lot of kids in the sessions would complain that their parents never gave them rules. That's permissive parenting. Anyone ever see, what's that TV show, 16?
16 and pregnant?
No. I don't even know if it's on anymore. It was years ago. Like it's a Sweet 16, but they're like monsters.
Oh, my Sweet 16, MTV, right?
No, was it
It was
Gypsy's
MTV,
Wedding?
my Sweet 16.
It's
yeah.
something when they're gonna be 16
Yeah,
and their
and
parents
they're-
spoil
yeah,
them. They
they're
give them these
cool.
huge parties and they
Oh
buy
yeah,
them
my
all
sister
sorts
saw
of.
MTV.
These
MTV,
girls are
yeah,
spoiled
Sweet
fucking
16.
brats.
There's the three girls, right?
Yes,
There's
The twins, right?
Like Bridezillas?
like bridezillas, but worse because bridezillas are adults. But these are girls and they're having their temper tantrums and then their parents are giving them whatever they want.
It had to go their way.
There used to be a show called Wife Swap that I used to watch with my kids, and I would sit and watch it with them so they could see the extreme, because these two extreme families, and then the moms had to swap. And oftentimes,
that show
there was one that was so laissez-faire that she let the kid whatever, and then they would pair them up with a father that was super strict. So of course, that was the whole show, the fighting. And I remember this one show where the father would do the homework for the girl. And the wife swap mom was like, why do you do her homework? He goes, she doesn't need brains. She's beautiful. And she will get through life with her looks. I mean, that show traumatized me. And I used to watch that shit with my kids when they were little to show them that's not what you do. So,
Oh my god.
these parents, and this is a big complaint that I heard over and over in group sessions in the mental hospital from these teenagers, is that the parents didn't give them rules, they didn't give them structure, because we crave that. So what happened is that their lives became fucking chaotic, complete messes. They became addicts, they didn't know how to hold down a job, they didn't. So it's real easy to parent your kid that way and let them do whatever, but you're fucking them up with permissive parenting, because then they don't really know right from wrong. And research shows that permissive parenting, those children tend to have more social interactions. They're better at manipulating social interactions, so they do have that skill, but they tend to have higher degrees of alcohol and drug issues because they were basically told you can do whatever you want. This is a form of narcissism. Narcissistic personality disorder, if we go back to Freud, you know how Freud had his anal stage and all these complexes? You guys have heard of Oedipus complex? Okay, the Oedipus complex comes from a myth in Greek mythology where he was told that he was going to kill his father and marry his mother.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it happened in the story. Okay, no new stories. So Freud named this phenomenon Oedipal complex. When the child wants the mother, usually there's an Electra complex when the daughter wants the father, but it's usually when the son wants the mother, and basically is at war, if you will, with the father and wants to marry his mother. Well, this is symbolic. What is the way that a little boy can win his mother? What
At
do
least
the
mine-
mother and father share?
Mine comes to me in hugs, and he's like, kisses.
Okay, but,
That's great.
and that's okay, he's a
But
2-year-old,
he
that's
doesn't have a
appropriate.
dad, so I
But
wouldn't really.
What do husband and wife normally share? Love, sex, and where does that happen in the house? In the bedroom. So, it is often thought that if the child, especially the male child, but it's female too, can displace the father, that the child has won. He basically has won the love of the mother, and the father has been X'd out. This is a belief that this starts to perpetuate narcissistic personality disorder. Because I won. I killed my father, he's in the bedroom next door, and I married my mother. I'm sharing the bed. Remember everything with Freud with sex. Not wrong, because I told you the sexual energy is the most important. Everything happens through the second chakra in order to have form. So Freud is actually very ahead of his time, and a lot of his theories were misconstrued. It wasn't all just sex, sex, sex. He was actually talking about this. But if that son sort of dethrones the father and marries the mother, that could be the beginning of narcissistic personality disorder. And therefore, as parents, what do? We put the kid in his bed, and night after night, we say, no, you sleep in your bed, and this is your bed, and this is your bed. To teach the child, he has his space, and mommy and daddy have their private space. But it's much easier to say, fuck it, I'm gonna go to the couch, let little Johnny sleep in the bed, and Johnny win. Not the greatest thing, because then the child believes that he's God, he doesn't have structure, he doesn't have rules, he doesn't have to follow rules, and at 13, maybe not necessarily should be sleeping in the bed. But this is just an example. I don't know her son. Maybe he needs his mommy right now because something's happening at home. She's not my client, so I'm just giving you little examples. So people like that oftentimes rebel against structure and rules and create chaos and live chaotic lives because they're like the bridezillas. They're like the Sweet 16. They're like, I deserve the world, and mommy and daddy did it all for me and told me I was the princess and I was the king and the queen, and therefore the world is going to adapt to me, and I'm here to tell you, fuck you. The world doesn't adapt to you. You've got knees, and it's going to humiliate the fuck out of you, and you're going to be begging on your knees for assistance one day. And that is the harm in creating a child with narcissistic personality disorder. So we are not doing a favor to our children by saying yes, 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 take, take, take. Because we're defying the exact act of creation. That in order for something to be created, it must have form. Form equals rules. So parents who try to defy that are really fucking up their kids. And that's what turns into a monster later on in life. Self-centered, selfish people. We all have a bit of narcissism. I've told you that before. We all have this because every single one of us know that there's some spirit or soul living inside of us that is God. But we are limited by our body. We are limited by the fact that we have a body. Therefore, there are rules to follow. So you are going to have clients that want to create chaos, blow up their life, and your responsibility is to kind of help them. Rules are necessary. Structure is healthy. Stability feels really good. Because what they're doing is they're trying to kind of connect maybe too much with their God aspect, maybe too much with that narcissism, maybe too much with the fact that there's this universal being that created them, but they forgot that they're limited by the form. We are forced to go in through the small door. Every single one of us. The younger we are, the more we think we're going to change the world. I'm here to tell you that you're not changing the fucking world. At all. Nobody is changing the world. There's this Billy Joel song, We Didn't Start the Fire. Did you ever hear it? And he talks about everything that's happened in history, like in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s and the 80s.
No,
It's the same fucking story, people. A different ruler, now it's Trump and Putin versus whomever it was in the past. It's the same fucking thing. The other day I heard on the radio that they retired 2 hurricane names because they did such damage. So if there's a major hurricane that does a lot of damage, they retire the name. And then they substitute the name. So I think it was like the letter F, the letter M, whatever. So let's say Maria and Florence. I don't know what it was. They go Fausto and Margarita. It's the same thing. It's still a fucking hurricane. It just has a different name. You're not changing the fucking world. You're not. You're going to humble through the little small door just like everybody else. And so it's not about telling your client they're not changing the world. Yes, last week I said, show the fuck up. Live out your meaning and your purpose. Absolutely. But within the limitations of structure, within the limitations that there are rules to follow, and none of you are God, and none of you are going to be allowed to live in the human world without form, without rules, without structure. Because what we talked about earlier, God himself had to do what in order to create the world? God took the idea of the moon and the stars and the oceans, and he had to give it form. He had to give it structure so it looks round like the sun and round like the moon and wavy like the oceans. All of it is tangible. Everything God created in those 7 days was tangible. Tangible means rules and structure and limitation. So therefore, when a client comes, whoa! Maybe we can help them reevaluate the structure, not be so limited in their thinking, to give them some wiggle room, but basically we're just helping them readjust to the fact that they're limited and there are rules to follow, so that they don't create chaos and blow up their life just because. So hopefully this woman will realize this and maybe she'll fix her marriage and renegotiate the rules. Maybe this other client will stop self-destructing and having issues with her health because she understands that all she's doing is being pissed at the body and she's rebelling against her body. I know many people that have STDs, and STDs have a lot to do with this. Because STDs are second chakra. So when you have second chakra things, when you have sexual things, when you have financial things, those are all second chakra. Mark my words, second chakra issues is this. It is absolutely this, because the second chakra is where you birth that baby, where the material, where the body comes out. So these clients that I have with STDs oftentimes have 99.9%, to not say 100, have second chakra issues. And what it is that the way that they rebel is by creating the STD. That's the chaos. They're pissed off. They want to fuck whoever they want to fuck. They don't like the fact that they have to be limited. Whatever it is. Each client is different. And then they create the STD and outburst because that's their way of creating chaos. So second chakra issues are always linked to this. Usually they're sexual in nature, financial in nature, having to do with any sort of limitation, rules, responsibilities. And so we can help clients sort of reframe that they have rules. Right now you're limited. You're limited because you live with your mother. So when you rebel and you tell her to fuck off, that's all you're doing. Is saying, I'm fucking stuck with this bitch, so now I'm going to tell her to fuck off to cause chaos. And that's your whole internal battle. I was waiting for you today.
What happens when you just allow her to talk all the shit and you just look at the wall while she's doing, like,
Perfect.
is that...
Perfect.
Also, but for somehow she finds it disrespectful.
Oh my god, yes.
Everything I do is disrespect. Like, if I ignore her, if I don't, like...
But that's her issue. That's her issue. And isn't she ultra limited and ultra structured because she has to follow the church and the Bible and XYZ? I'm using the story of God as an example because most people know that. I'm a mythologist, so for me, it's Uranus and Saturn. And I spoke to the client yesterday about Uranus and Saturn because she knows astrology. The bottom line is, in every religion, in every philosophy, there is a creation God. And the creator wanted to experience itself and had to make something. In order for you to experience, that's why people that don't work or people that don't have meaning and purpose are so fucking lost. I'm now in a major transition period. And I was just telling Mr. Pachi this morning. I feel I have no identity. I feel like I have absolutely no identity. I do not know what my purpose, what my meaning is. Like
You're lost.
I'm lost because I'm in a major transition because everything in my life changed overnight. The most stable thing I have is coming here and knowing that I come the 40 hours a week. I do my hours, I see her, I see my colleagues, I see you guys. That's the most stability, the most structure that I have because I just came out of a fucking shitload of chaos. My husband leaving, my 3 kids going to school, moving 3 times, having breast cancer. So all I want, because of so much chaos that was thrust upon me, is structure. And I'm longing for it. And I'm not finding it. I'm having a difficult time. And I'm frustrated because it's like, my God, I just want some stability in my life. And so my entire identity has been shattered, and now it's my responsibility to remake that, to rebuild that, to figure out who the fuck I am. I don't know. I mean, even my children, I'm still a mother, because my girlfriend and I last night, we went out to dinner, and I was like, oh, you're a mother, you're this. She goes, well, Frances, so are you. And I'm like, no, you still have small kids at home.
I don't consider myself.
I'm still a mom, but it's very different to be a mother to adult children.
That's it, yeah.
They don't need you the same way. It's very different than it is to small children. And mothers, for the most part, not that dads don't, but moms specifically, tend to identify themselves as a mother when they have small kids. So the last time I was in this state of chaos, when I left my first husband, I had 3 little children in diapers. My entire identity was a mom. So yesterday I was telling my girlfriend, I'm like, I had such strength back then. I was fearless.